What if I told you that Selena Gomez didn't almost break down because she was weak, but because the entertainment industry worked exactly the way it was designed to? Behind the red carpet, sold out tours, and billion-dollar brands, there's a system that quietly destroys the very stars it creates. And Selena Gomez is one of its most heartbreaking examples. This isn't gossip. This isn't hate. This is the industry secret no one talks about. Selena Gomez is one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Singer, actress, producer, entrepreneur. But behind that success is years of pressure, control, and silence. Pressure that nearly cost her everything. Today, we're breaking down the hidden industry machine that slowly wore her down and why her story exposes a much bigger problem in Hollywood. Chapter 1. Childhood fame. Too much, too fast. Selena didn't grow into fame. She was thrown into it. She entered the industry as a child where schedules are brutal, expectations are unrealistic, and no is rarely an option. From a young age, she learned one rule: perform, smile, don't complain. There was no pause button, no room to fail, and definitely no space to be human. By the time most kids were figuring out who they were, Selena was already a brand. Chapter 2. The control problem. Here's the part people don't see. When you're a young star, you don't own your image. The industry does. Before you're old enough to understand who you are, your identity becomes a product, packaged, marketed, and sold. What you wear is approved. What you eat is monitored. How much you weigh is tracked. Your words are rehearsed. Your interviews are coached. Your mistakes are managed, not healed. Even your relationships aren't fully yours. Who you date, when you're seen together, when you're expected to break up. Everything is filtered through executives, managers, and publicists whose job isn't to protect a human being, but to protect a brand. Rest becomes negotiable, privacy becomes a luxury, and saying no becomes a risk. For Selena Gomez, the pressure started early, before adulthood, before stability, before the space to fail safely. She was expected to be perfect, perfect smile, perfect body, perfect behavior, perfect gratitude. But perfection is impossible when your life isn't your own, when every flaw becomes a headline, when every pause is seen as weakness, when exhaustion is treated like an inconvenience. The industry calls it success, but for many young stars, it's control, slow, quiet, and relentless, and the cost is always paid later. Chapter 3. Body image and silent shaming. One of the most damaging industry secrets: body scrutiny. Every appearance Selena made was dissected online, but those same conversations were happening behind closed doors long before social media got loud. Weight changes weren't met with concern. They were treated like problems to fix. Instead of support, there was pressure. Instead of rest, there were deadlines. And over time, that constant criticism doesn't just hurt, it rewires how you see yourself. Chapter 4. Burnout isn't an accident. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Burnout isn't a mistake in the system. It's not bad planning. It's not bad luck. It's a feature. The industry runs on exhaustion because tired people are easier to control. When you're drained, you don't question schedules. You don't push back on contracts. You don't ask for better terms. You just show up. Selena was constantly moving, touring, acting, recording, promoting. One project ended and another began immediately. No real breaks, no time to recover, no space to be human. And asking for time isn't neutral. Saying I need rest can cost opportunities. It can cost relevance. It can cost leverage. So most stars don't speak up. They push through the sickness. They push through the anxiety. They push through the warning signs, because the machine rewards endurance, not health, until eventually the body steps in, or the mind does. And when that happens, it's framed as a personal failure, a breakdown, a weakness. But it isn't. It's the inevitable result of a system that takes more than it gives. Burnout isn't an accident. It's the bill coming due. Chapter 5. Mental health, the cost of silence. Eventually, the pressure caught up. Selena opened up about anxiety, depression, and emotional exhaustion, things that had been building quietly for years. But even then, the industry response wasn't compassion, it was damage control. Because mental health is acceptable in Hollywood only when it doesn't interrupt business. Chapter 6. Why Selena's story matters. This isn't just about Selena Gomez. It never was. Her story matters not because she is famous, talented, or recognizable, but because she is a visible example of something much larger, something deeply embedded in how the entertainment industry operates, something most people only glimpse when a headline breaks, or a tour is cancelled, or a star suddenly disappears. The industry likes to frame these moments as individual failures, personal struggles, mental health breaks, burnout, exhaustion, all words that sound compassionate on the surface but quietly shift responsibility away from the system itself. Because if it's personal, then the machine is innocent. But the truth is harder to accept. Selena's story is about a system that discovers talent young, extracts value quickly, and rarely plans for longevity. A system that celebrates youth but does not protect it, that rewards productivity but punishes pause, that builds empires on human beings while insisting the cost is simply part of the deal. From the outside, it looks like opportunity, access, privilege, fame. From the inside, it often looks like pressure without pause, expectations without boundaries, a constant sense that if you slow down, someone else will take your place. Selena entered the public eye before she had the chance to decide who she wanted to be. Her identity developed in front of cameras, critics, executives, and millions of strangers who felt entitled to opinions about her body, her voice, her relationships, and her worth. This is not unique to her. It is structural. The industry profits most from young talent because young people are more adaptable, more eager to please, and more willing to sacrifice their own needs for approval and opportunity. They say yes because they are told yes is how you succeed. They push through because they are told pushing through is strength. And when the consequences arrive, the industry reframes the story. It becomes about resilience, about recovery, about an individual learning to cope, never about prevention, never about accountability. For every Selena who survives long enough to speak honestly, there are dozens we never hear from again, artists whose careers stall quietly, actors whose names stop appearing in headlines, performers who fade from relevance, not because they lack talent, but because they reached a breaking point the system had no interest in accommodating. Burned out, broken, forgotten. Some leave willingly, others are pushed out gently, invisibly, replaced without ceremony. The machine keeps moving because it always does. There is always someone younger, hungrier, less exhausted, more willing to endure. That is why Selena's story matters. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is familiar. It reflects a cycle that repeats across music, film, television, and social media. A cycle where early success comes at the cost of long-term health, where survival is mistaken for triumph, where speaking out is considered brave only after the damage has already been done. The industry depends on silence, on gratitude, on the idea that suffering is simply part of earning a place. When someone like Selena names the harm instead of internalizing it, it disrupts that narrative. It forces the question the industry avoids. What if the problem isn't the artist? What if the problem is the system? Chapter 7. Taking Back Control. What makes Selena's story powerful isn't just what she endured, it's what she chose to do afterward. In an industry that treats constant output as proof of relevance, she slowed down. In a culture that rewards silence, she spoke up. In a system that thrives on compliance, she began choosing herself. That decision may sound simple. It isn't. Slowing down in entertainment is not neutral. It is not quietly respected. It is interpreted as risk, as instability, as lost momentum. Careers are built on visibility. Algorithms reward consistency. Contracts are written with timelines that assume bodies and minds will cooperate indefinitely. Choosing to step back means accepting uncertainty. It means risking relevance. It means tolerating judgment from people who confuse productivity with worth. For Selena, slowing down meant acknowledging limits she had been taught to ignore. It meant listening to her body instead of overriding it. It meant reframing success not as constant presence but as sustainability. Speaking up meant breaking an unspoken rule. Don't complain. Don't criticize the machine that gave you everything. Don't make people uncomfortable. But she did, not in a single dramatic statement, but over time, through honesty, through interviews